everybody. Welcome to another World Lymphedema Celebration event. Today we have Kathlene from Juzo joining me. I am your host, Amanda Sobey, and this is Kathlene. Hi. Do you want to tell everybody who's here a little bit about yourself and just how you got into Juzo and what you currently do?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Kathlene McCuaig, and I am the Juzo Western Sales Manager for British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. I have been in the home healthcare industry almost 25 years with a focus on compression and compression garments over the years. My introduction to compression happened in 1998. I was a durable medical sales rep, so I sold a lot of wheelchairs. And it was the infancy of the home care program in Ontario, where I lived in Collingwood. And they were juggling a lot of things. Long-term care, I would say, was understaffed. People at home perhaps had only their family member as a caregiver. And I would deliver wheelchairs. And in the afternoon, when they didn't have staff to put people to bed for bed rest to encourage circulation, relaxation, or at home where perhaps it was the person who was the wheelchair user and their spouse or caregiver, we didn't have two people or sometimes even three people to do a lift again to help them get to bed, offload pressure, prevent bed sores. So I was introduced to compression by a company called BSN Jobst and a lady by the name of Debbie Brophy, and she certified me as a fitter. And I started adding compression garments to my wheelchair sales, if you will, because tilt wheelchairs at that time didn't go back far enough to get the feet above the heart. So the compression was helping with the circulation, getting edema and swelling down, and just generally helping my clients. So I really fell in love with the concept of compression because it's not a pill that you take, right? It's not invasive. It's not a surgery. But it is a medical device that has real, true benefit to the people who will wear it compliantly and consistently, but also who have been assessed and fitted properly. So it's that whole combination that keeps me moving, talking about the art and the science of compression, right? We have the science of taking measurements around a limb or multiple limbs, and then we have the art of the fitting and getting that garment to do what it's supposed to do. And then, in conjunction with all of that, we have the education and the training to encourage the compliance of the wearer. And with Juzo, we are always looking for ways to lure you in. And the very, very best way to encourage compliance is to offer fabrics that are wearable and that will do what they say they will do. So that's how we get that consistency and that compliance. And so I've been with Juzo for 3 years, but I have been a fitter and certified for many years with a variety of manufacturers. And I think that's important too, because it helps us be client-centric in our approach, right?
So there's a couple of points that I really want to talk about. And one was having a certified fitter. Can you give us some tips and some hints what people out there, because it's so funny. I feel like everyone, especially because lymphedema or lipedema, both, they're so under-recognized. So we get really excited when we find, a fitter or a therapist because they actually have heard the terminology. But can you possibly give us some tips to find a qualified fitter, because not everybody is certified nor is able to fit properly? So what are some tips that you would recommend for our audience to look for in going into a medical supply store to get these garments on?
So if as a client, you are lucky enough to have an MLD or a certified therapist already in your life who's helping you with that end of the therapy, he or she often has a list, a secret little black book of fitters in your town or city where they feel that that person has a competency level to be of assistance. And that's a great resource. When you are looking, you can Google compression stockings for lymphedema in Kamloops, British Columbia, and see what pops up. So that will give you some of your actual store locations. When you walk into the store, there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, do you have a custom certified fitter on staff? So there are typically 2 levels of training offered. Basic, which all the manufacturers will offer, and custom, which those of us who specialize in made to measure garments, we will offer that level. And we issue those certificates. They should be hanging in the fitting room or in the office or in a public space that they can be pointed to. And you can also ask, how many years experience they have, and are they comfortable with working with someone whose limb looks like, and you open up the trench coat and give them a show.
Well, and that's a great point. So I remember somebody that I was talking to, they went to a medical supply store. The person didn't have any certificates on the wall. They didn't have a measuring tape. They didn't have even a sizing chart readily available. So these are all things that you want to become aware of. If you are going to get fitted, there should be certificates. There should be lots of paraphernalia from compression manufacturers around, right? Because like Juzo, there's going to be pamphlets, there's going to be magazines, they even have Juzo measuring tapes. Like, yeah. Again, when you go into these fitters' offices, you should see multiple and many tools to be fitted properly. So again, if you guys are new to getting fitted, hopefully you're listening to this so that you don't have to go through some of the horror stories that I've heard some patients go through. I think the other thing that you would probably agree with too, Kathleen, is that your fitter should be able to work around your issues or your concerns and have a different opinion. Again, if you have lobules or if you have oddly shaped legs or just even the edema is more in the thigh than it is in the ankle, your fitter or vice versa, it could be worse in the calf and in the ankle versus in the thigh. Your fitter should be able to find and know certain products that will fit you the best and point you up that direction versus just putting you in the traditional garment.
That's right. And we find, those traditional or cash and carry, I call them, right? They might be in a lower level of compression, so less containment of 15 to 20. They may be on the wall in the store, the pharmacy, the home healthcare store. They're meant for travel, perhaps. They're done by shoe size. Those are not garments typically for clients with lymphedema, right? A lymphedema limb has a lot more going on typically, and the disease state itself requires more attention more often than not than the self-serve boxes. So there are signs, but do not be shy to take charge of your own care and ask the questions straight out. And look for, well, in my case, if you see some Juzo green boxes or a poster, you won't find my products out front as much. You tend to find me in the fitting room when we're getting down to business, but you should see Juzo green pens. If you see a Juzo green pen, that's a clue. That's a clue.
Again, why compression? Why is compression so important for some of our newbies? I know there's a lot of veterans on here, so I know we are going to get into the thick of some of the meatier conversations, but for the beginners out there, why compression?
Well, I often like to give us the comparison to France, where 98% of French ladies wear compression versus 2%, while in North America, 2% of the population wear compression versus the 98%. So I will say that our European cousins have long understood the benefits of compression for health, for wellness, for improvement of your circulation system, be it vascular or lymphatic. There is no one over the age of 18 for sure, who wouldn't benefit from compression. Gravity itself takes a toll on us. I mean, you don't see the full Kathleen here, but definitely gravity takes a toll. So compression garments, even in a lighter strength, will definitely aid in keeping our bodies healthy and active, oxygenated, feeling better. If you have a scratch or a wound, if you wear a compression wearer, that site is going to heal faster. So great, great reasons for that. For lymphedema clients, post-surgery, compression is prescribed prophylactically, and we mean that preventatively, right? So you may not have had the dramatic swelling or edema or some of the other far more obvious signs, but if you are going to travel, if you're going to take a drive through the mountains and, come see me in Calgary from Victoria, and you're going to change elevation, then compression garments, even in a light strength, would be recommended for an arm and certainly for the lower limbs.
Good tip. I know I found out the hard way of going into places that have a higher elevation, and I ballooned up again because there was less atmospheric pressure. So again, it's a really, really good tip. Anybody who's traveling or anybody who wants to go skiing. And again, you'll find people that are closer down to sea level, the pressure's more. So again, you might find that, oh, I remember this woman, she's like, oh, my lymphedema was cured, but she was just, below sea level where the pressure was the most, which again, she was a stage 0, stage 1. So again, hers kind of would phase in and out or what have you. But then as soon as she came back from holidays, it was like, dang. So again, for Juzo products, again, what can we know about Juzo and why are they so special? I think the biggest thing that I've recognized as a patient that they stand out most to anybody is the color choices and the trending colors. Shall we start there as to why they stick out, or what other points that we should mention?
So Juzo is a family-owned company that controls their own manufacturing out of the state of Ohio. So they're made here in North America. And for me, that's important, certainly providing jobs for our American cousins, jobs for a good group of us in Canada. And being family owned, it means they can turn on a dime and do things that other manufacturers just can't, because either they outsource or they don't have the same chain of command, right? We offer the trend colors because, again, as I was saying earlier, we will do anything to point a client in the direction of compliance. So when you know that you can have what you need in something fun and funky, or with tie-dye or a print, it helps, right? It just helps because it gives us control of our own disease state, and we get to make some choices in a situation where we may feel that we don't have very many choices at all. So Juzo will offer those colors. Well, we offer colors actually in all our fabrics, but in my 4 main fabrics for lymphedema, you will see my trend colors in the circular knits, which are called soft and dynamic, and you'll see them in my first level flat knit, which is called Expert. And Expert is just a very special weave that allows for maximum airflow. Typically our flat knit are what people think of as our made to measure or custom, right? Those 2 phrases are used interchangeably, but Juzo will also do custom in our circular knit fabric. So I've been holding up the soft, which is very soft and stretchy. So for a client perhaps who had lymphedema, we'll say in one leg but not the other, right? But they wanted to wear pantyhose. Well, that's always been a challenge because you need the containment on the afflicted leg, but your good leg, as you like to call it, it doesn't need that kind of pressure going on. So people have thought, they had to stay away from that option. But no, at Juzo, we can do custom, made to measure, circular knit, soft pantyhose, taking the measurements, circumference and length for the afflicted leg, it gets knit unto itself, taking the measurements for the non-afflicted leg, putting a panty on that, and Bob's your uncle, and off you go. So the ability for Juzo to be mindful and offer options, I can say categorically, no other company offers the amount of options to garments that Juzo does. I get calls all the time. Could you do this? Have you ever done that? And I'll be like, we've probably done that thing a million times. So as long as it doesn't medically compromise a client, Juzo will probably have a run at it because, again, our manufacturing is all in-house. Our sewing team is there. We're all there. And our goal is to help people with lymphedema live their absolute best life.
Speaking about the custom options, in a sense, you will find things like you can have, so this is just a basic straight open-toed stocking. You can get these also on a slant, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. So, we have garments. This might be a little bit, there we go.
There you go.
Right? So any shape, any size, right, is pretty much
ankle reinforcement or flexibility, the knee, thigh,
comfort patches. People will say behind the knee, or is very sensitive, so we'll put in a satin or charmeuse comfort patch and take all the pressure out of that spot. Some larger limbs, we're trying to keep a thigh high from slipping, so we'll put in silicone band stoppers, right? And we can position those. And again, this is where a competent fitter is worth his or her weight in gold, because 100%. They'll be looking at positioning and where to put those stoppers they'll work with the team at Juzo, or I spend my evenings with emails, looking at pictures and answering emails while we try to figure out what's going to work the best.
What if someone's allergic to silicone?
There's two things to that. So first of all of our product, all of our elastomers are man-made. So there is no natural rubber in my product. So they're hypoallergenic. It's very rare that someone has an allergic reaction to a silicone band, because that's not what we are. The solution, though, if you were having a reaction, you can turn your garment inside out and put the stopper to the outside.
There you go. There you go. Very interesting. I'm always learning something. This is so cool. Are there going to be funky colors for men, or how can he get some funky colors?
Funky colors. It depends on, your version of funky. So this happens to be, some funky. And so the trend colors that will be announced, you can look at our current signature trend colors on juzo.ca or juzousa.com, because we are sister companies to each other here in North America. So you'll see the current signature trend colors already up online, but they're going to flip very shortly. So this year we had peacock, which sounds, exciting. And we had sangria, and we had an Arctic blue. Those are great colors for men and women in the various fabrics. We tie-dye with white, we tie-dye with black. I have a lot of gentlemen who love some black tie-dye, and then they'll pick up the color, perhaps in a tie or a shirt. And
I think too, I'm actually getting out of the whole male and female categories, because I had to wear male pants and male shoes for the longest time. And I think instead of gender stereotyping, just if you love it and if you fit that size, I think we should be all feeling comfortable to wear it as well too. Is Juzo planning on making any compression bras?
So currently we do a vest, right? A full vest, and it is made to measure and custom. To my knowledge, I'm not in product development per se. I do not honestly see Juzo going down the road of compression bras. There are some great companies out there. If you send me a secret message on the side, I will tell you about one that's based in Calgary that I will refer people to all the time, because the variety is there, the sizing is there, and the cost-effective value is there. So Juzo, we're very good at what we do, but I would say as a company, we are very careful to stay in our lane, stay in our wheelhouse, and perfect the things, that we do best.
When you understand compression, it is a full-on different can of worms. And I don't want to say like an arm is simple or a leg is simple, but the breast and chest torso region is very complex as well. And yes, you're right. It's in our brains, it thinks, oh, how easy, it'd be so good for this company to just bring it all on board. But again, it's an entirely different kettle of fish, as they say. Another question has popped on in. I have been wrapping my leg for about 10 years now, and I've not been able to find a garment that provides the same level of compression as wrapping. I'm wondering what the strongest compression stockings are. Have there been advances in the last 10 years?
In the last 10 years? Well, wrapping is a wonderful thing, right? I mean, it is the gold standard of care. And if I could have an MLD therapist at my home every morning, assessing the situation, doing a fresh wrap-up job for every person that I meet, every client, because I don't personally have lymphedema, that is what I would do. If I won the lottery, that is what I would do. But it is unfortunately not sustainable or feasible, right? If you're rural, Western Canada, like much of us are, we have many clients who come into town, they are seen once a week, they're wrapped, and then somehow they have to struggle or try to rewrap themselves until they are seen again. Now, if you're a pro wrapper and looking after yourself, or you have a spouse or a companion who can help, then mad props, right? Like that's a wonderful thing. To segue into have there been any changes or improvements to fabrics? I'm smiling because Juzo, I would say, is not as well marketed as other companies. And our fabrics, we have, in my humble opinion, I believe Juzo has the greatest range of fabrics for lymphedema containment, and we have the most effective fabrics for lymphedema containment. And it is all about the fabric. it doesn't matter if you've been prescribed something as high as a 50 to 60 compression, if the fabric they're trying to do that in, is as flimsy and stretchy as this, right? It's not achievable. You need to look at fabrics that can hold their own, pun intended, for the duration of your active day. So in my flat knit made to measure, I have the Expert, and my Expert with its flow weave, right? So when I talked about earlier, that has that airflow ability, it has some beautiful containment. Its compression levels are done to the European style because it's a flat knit fabric, so it goes quite high. And I always try to work with the fabric first. So I'll take the compression level that we are considering. I might try to drop it down a level, and I'll see if my fabric can hold you. And if my fabric can hold you, then, it's a blessed thing, right? Because we found the solution and we haven't maxed out our options. All of us are going to age. So if I start you in my fabric, which is called strong, and it literally is strong, and I start you at a higher level compression, and you're a sweet young thing like Amanda, by the time she gets to 80, what are we going to do with her? Because the body is going to age, it's going to require more, and we'll have no more to give, and we will have to go back to bandaging, which is not a realistic expectation, because time, money, and inclination, you might have the time, but I don't know many people who have the money to afford, daily bandaging or the inclination to get access to it. So I would say to your question, explore the fabrics and work with your fitter to see if perhaps there is a more rigorous fabric that can give you the containment that will match what your wrapping is doing.
We had another question. Oh, did you want to
go back to the compression bra?
I offered a piece of advice as well too.
Yeah, do that.
So, and again, I really want, Kathlene and I, we had a conversation before this webinar started, and her and I believe very strongly in diversifying your products. We believe that it's one garment and one product is not going to carry you through a lifetime of this illness. So what I think I really recommend for people is, again, I think it's a beautiful suggestion to find fabrics that fit and fabrics that contain and fabrics that do the job. However, if that necessarily isn't working for you, and here's the thing, you don't want to have too high of compression because it is also can be permanently damaging. So don't think that by squeezing your lay, it's going to magically reduce or magically make this condition get better, because that is not the nature of this game. You want to have consistent gradual compression, and again, that bandaging will help to decongest you and to reduce you, and then you want to find a fabric that's going to support you at your lowest phase. Now, if the bandaging is a bit too cumbersome, then you might want to look into some easy wraps or into a Circ8 or into a separate product that still provides you a lot of rigidity, but again, it's more Velcro based. It's a little bit more flexible to apply on. And I'm not too sure if Juzo has a Circ8 or Ready wraps as well either. My apologies for not knowing your entire catalog. But again, you might be looking at something that is a bit more in between a garment versus the wrap. So again, diversifying your products so that they are able for you to use daily, but then also get you the results without having permanent damage effects.
So to speak to that, definitely Juzo has a wrap. It's a really lovely wrap. I'm holding a piece of it here. Try to put it where you can see it. It is a Velcro base. So Velcro based wrap. The Velcro comes off so that you can wash the garment. You can switch it from beige to black if you're feeling fashion conscious. And it's also trimmable. So it acts as a reduction garment. So once you finish your decongestive therapy, you can be using this as you work your way down through that treatment. And then when you get to your ground zero, it can be trimmed and set and you're good to go. It's washable, as I said. In Alberta, my home province, it is eligible for AADL funding, and it is certainly eligible through NIHB, Veterans Affairs, third-party health insurance. But for us in Alberta, it's comparable to the funding that we get for custom garments.
Fabulous. No, thank you for that. And it looks like it's also thin enough, supportive, but thin enough that you can wear it under pants, put it in shoes, put it under garments. So again, it also becomes a functional item versus the bandaging. If you're bandaging, I did a event with Fast and Go bandages yesterday. but we also have kind of replaced the old school bandaging with the foam stretch bandage and then the long stretch bandage over top, which makes you really, really bulky. Again, there's a whole bunch of new products that are coming into the market. So again, now that we know that Juzo has a wrap, super cool, it's thin, it's functional, they've obviously thought of it inside and out based on ripping off that Velcro, making it trimmable. So that's super fabulous.
We do that wrap for gauntlet, arm, and then full leg, including hip attachment. So all the pieces are there. I'll talk about the bra question. So while we don't offer a compression bra, we do offer compression vests. They are made to measure. That would be something you discuss with your fitter. But a lot of lymphedema clients have been looking at my soft compress. So you can, we'll get that. There we go. There we go. So you can see the channeling that. So this is cotton over foam, and the channels are designed to move the lymph fluid up and out of the limb. I happen to be holding a piece called the universal arm sleeve, and it really is just like a giant pillow, and it's universal because it's trimmable, and typically it's kept with the vendors or the therapist as a sample piece so clients can prospectively feel it, touch it, try it, because the soft compress line is an investment piece. It will last 5 years or more. But you've got to find a way to look after that up front. We do a full bustier, and it's done by cup size or flat if it was a gentleman that needed it. But it is a full, I call it my Madonna wear. And honestly, at a trade show, I'll wear it over my clothing because, I have no shame. But it really gets that channeling up under the armpits, right? And helps to move the lymph fluid. So the Madonna bustier is an option. To hold it in place. It is Velcroed front and back so that it's got a piece down the center, front and back, to help you snug it into place. And then I recommend something as easy as an Under Armour or a cycling shirt. So I have some other soft compress pieces, genital pads for people who are experiencing genital lymphedema. And as opposed to paying for an expensive custom short, which I do, and I'm happy to sell you, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's not necessary. I will say, hit up your local cycle shop or sport shop and get yourself, some cycling shorts that are moisture wicking, a little bit snug, and will hold the pieces in place.
I love cycling
combination of Juzo and your local sports store. There we go.
Yeah, what a great piece of advice. I think a lot of people always misunderstand that, because we're always taught medical compression, but there is and are fabulous other products on the market as well too. Again, cycling compression is obviously one of them. So again, diversifying your products, you guys, is the key to living a happy, healthy life in compression. So again, Karen had asked about, does Juzo do anything for sleeping? I think that kind of, you sort of touched on it a little bit, but do you guys have anything for sleeping in nighttime garments? Mm-hmm. And if so, how do you know what's right for the day and what's right for the night?
Well, if people can do their shopping at Walmart in their pajamas, there is no right or wrong answer to that one. Right. So for us at Juzo, the soft compress pieces would be our night garment held in place by the compression wrap, or as we just talked about, an alternative, right? A sleep shirt that is maybe a size, smaller than you would wear just to hold your pieces in place. The soft compress also can be purchased in a bed sheet, so very large squares. And we have a lot of clients who will put that under their fitted sheet in bed and lay on it, go to sleep. And when they wake up in the morning, they have little lines in their skin, just showing the fact that lymphatic therapy does not have to be aggressive to be effective, right? Your own body weight is actually going to move that lymph fluid out through the night. So that would be my solution from Juzo for night garments. And they are just becoming more and more popular as people, again, see them, therapists see them, my medical professionals, in the cancer centers and various places see them and present them as an option. I'm not everything for everybody, but you may just have seen something tonight that you're like, oh, I need to look into that because that might be my solution.
Jeanette has asked, for the pattern sleeves, are they only available in circular knit? That's a great question.
So they are only available in circular knit because the prints are a stamp. So it's a giant machine, I'll say the size of a queen size bed, that opens up like a panini press, and all the garments that we are going to print are laid out on it. And in the top of the panini press are slots that hold the print pieces, right? Like lick and stick tattoos is what I think of. So they are up in there and they get licked, sticked, pressed and printed. And it is the density of the circular knits that are able to take that ink leak, if you will, through them. And my flat knits just are too dense to take a pattern and hold it effectively. I mean, it would look like faded tattoos, actually, if I was printing on my expert and my strong fabric. So we try to make that up with some tie-dye and trend colors and some standard colors, fuchsia, blue, purple, available all the time. But until the next invention comes along that can help us press on the flat knit, it is the circulars at this moment.
I don't know if this is a question or if this is a statement, but Diane from Ontario, she's been trying to get Juzo toe caps paid by her coverage from ADP. She's been waiting since November to get approval. I don't know if that's a statement or if that's a question, but again, I think when it comes down to insurance, do you have any pieces of advice for why certain pieces or products that are obviously medically needed covered versus why they are not?
So I've worked with ADP since 1997, so I feel your pain. Well, gosh, there's got to be a politically correct answer to this one on national television. I would say, please go back to your vendor and ask them to follow up with ADP on your behalf. There are certainly 1-800 numbers you can call, but I think if the process has already been started for you to get coverage through a vendor, through the program, stick with the channels so that it doesn't put more spoons into the pot. So I would say go back to your vendor, get confirmation that the request has been submitted, but ADP will run as much as 3 or 6 months for funding sometimes. And that is just the lack of either staff sometimes, right, or lack of knowledgeable staff who just don't know whether or not they should be ticking the box.
Yeah. And again, the biggest thing that I've learned, I'm also a panelist on the lymphedema roundtable. I obviously train lymphies all the time. I've had to live through this condition. Be your own advocate. You can't rely on the people pushing your paperwork anymore. Again, there's been so many times people go to their doctors and the doctors don't even know about this condition. So again, you have to stay on them. And I know it's a pain in your butt. I know it is super frustrating because we have to teach people, we have to educate people, and now we're chasing around people for money or to get approval for these garments. But this is for the benefit of you, and it is worth it to stay on them, no matter how frustrating the process is.
If it's been 6 weeks, 6 weeks is too long. Every 2 weeks at the very outside. And I would ask your vendor, do they require another copy of the prescription from your doctor, or do they need a letter of support and justification from an occupational therapist? Like whoever your care team or your health team is, find out who can help you, because this, I can't imagine you're the first time they've seen, toe caps should not be like a wow, they should just be a thing.
What is circular knit? Okay, so circular knit versus flat knit, Kathleen.
So circular knit is a loom that knits like a tornado. And it starts at the toe and it works to the top of the garment where we put a finishing band on it. There is no visible seam to that garment other than what you might see across the toe or up at the top of the garment. They are typically very stretchy, very easy to don and doff, and we tend to use them for the lower levels of compression, or in our case, in our arm sleeves and gauntlets and gloves as prophylactics post-breast cancer treatment. A flat knit garment is knit on a loom. So think of your great-great-grandma making, whatever they were making on that old wooden loom with the clackety-clackety-clack sound. The garment, if it's a glove, will be knit as a mirror. So I'm a glove, there I am. I'm knit flat on the loom. When the garment comes off of the loom, the two pieces are brought together and a seam is sewn to attach them. So on a glove, a seam would be running up and through the fingers. On a lower extremity garment, you would have a seam. With Juzo, you can ask for your seam to be anywhere, medially, laterally, but you're going to see a flat seam. It'll be diabetic friendly. All of our seams are, but it is a visual little clue or cue on the garment that just says it was, done that way. The garments in the weave on a loom tend to be with stronger threads and more elastomer. which allows them to have greater containment and strength, so they won't stretch away during the day like a circular knit garment definitely will, to some extent. And that extent is where the rigor of the fabric is behaving or not behaving based on the quality of the manufacturing process.
Very, very well done. I love that people are still coming and learning the differences between flat knit and circular knit. There's so much to be learned. Kathlene, do you have anything else that you would want to say before we hop off here?
Lots to learn, right? So the more we know, the more we can share, and the more we can advocate both for ourselves and for others. And I think that's so important for us all going forward. Thank you, Amanda, for having me.
Okay, bye, you guys.